One of the last attempts made on my life was on April 25th of 2026. Today is May 12th. So it's pretty fresh, pretty recent. And what happened was people planned on getting me into a car accident. All right, so I'm going to try and make a long story short, and then I'll be making a longer version of it. So I ended up going and staying with some old acquaintances. I would have almost called them friends. I went and stayed with them for the winter time in West Virginia. The West Virginia's winters get pretty cold and nasty, and I really didn't want to endure it in the woods. I mean, I definitely would have, I could have been better off, but I could have also been worse off. Because the same people who follow me from place to place can also follow me 30 or 40 minutes into the woods. And honestly, that might honestly be the way to get rid of them. But anyways, so I stayed at this house for I don't know, 4 or 5 months, something like that. And I'd been in West Virginia trying to get my driver's license renewed, or trying to get an ID, just trying to get some help with my driver's license. And I asked several people. Everyone said no. There was one person who said that I could use his address to get my ID. And he is a extreme crackhead who lived in this really cracky house. And he'd actually been so fucking rude to me. He was actually so fucking rude to me that I had to block him on my phone. Like, just a day after he told me that I could use his house, I ended up having to block him because he was just so fucking obnoxious and stupid. Which I'm sure that I could have gone back, but in order to accomplish what I would have needed. So I don't need for the people stalking me and hating on me who stole my identity and who have prevented me from getting my driver's license to get their nasty little workers to I don't need for everyone to just decide which address is acceptable to my doppelganger or twin or whoever the whore is who has my identity. So I guess I have a twin sister or doppelgangers or whatever is going on. And they've given her my identity. I know that I think it was a video that I made yesterday. I said something like my identity was given to a celebrity. So that's only one of the options that I was told or heard, but I'm pretty sure that my identity went to a twin sister or someone who looked just like me, who is either a federal agent and works for the military somehow. She was maybe in the CIA or NSA or some crap like that. And I guess a lot of the people who were already working against me or who already had it out for me were hired by the government because they were doing it. Because there was already an enemy base for them to sponsor. But there really wasn't. I mean, the enemy base that there was something that continued to build on, and they were hired by, my government douchebags anyways. And I've already had contract killers break down in person, not break down, but tell me in person and through YouTube that they were hired by the government to take me out. So, any attempts that any fuckholes want to try to make to pretend that I'm crazy or that they can somehow discredit what I'm saying, they can easily go fuck themselves. I've literally been dodging fucking bullets out here for the last 15 solid fucking years. My grandfather passed away in 2013. He was murdered by my grandma. I've made videos about that on this channel. And he left his house and other things to me. And my family just did what they could to come up with a new will and to burn the spiral notebook or whatever that he wrote the information in. And they tried to change the will around. I heard that they donated the house to their own LLC that's connected to some church or something that they made, and that they possibly even made in my name, that they dedicated the house to the church and then had the church dedicate it back to them, donate it back to them, or something like that. And whatever it was that they did, that may not specifically be it, or I may be wrong about specific things, but I wasn't there when people were deciding to steal my identity and to have me murdered. So I'm just putting this together for you as well as I fucking can, as the victim who's trying to explain themselves without any fucking help. I've literally been dodging bullets out here for a really long time, over 15 years, like I said, because people were trying to take me out even before my grandpa died. But when my grandpa died, it made it to where they could abuse me in ways that they couldn't before he died, because he was, like, I guess the only person who actually cared about me, and I didn't know it was like that. So, my family, after leaving me out of the will and all that, they tried to have me red rummed while I was still in Texas with them after my grandpa died. But what they were doing was just too obvious, and they ended up sending me to West Virginia. They were like, oh, we're having a hard time taking her out here, so let's just send her out there where we can have other people hold her hostage and do whatever to her out there, and we can pretend that we had nothing to do with it, and it's all on her. It's all because she hangs out with the wrong people. It's all just because she gets herself into all this trouble and all this mess. And so they sent me to West Virginia, where I pretended that I didn't know that people were after me and trying to take me out over an inheritance that was probably left to me, that even my ex-boyfriend who was there, like, he was working with them against me behind my back. He and my cousin forced me to give them my signature so that they could use it as she or my sister pretended to be me. They would go into the banks and, like, dress up and pretend to be me and use my signature and stuff like that. And the banks were in on it. The probate attorney involved in my grandfather's estate was involved in it. Even the Veterans Affairs Hospital in Amarillo, Texas helped red rum my grandpa. They helped set up the environment and to facilitate my grandmother's murder of my grandfather. He was 73 years old. He easily had another 20 to 30 years on him. So, yeah. So they sent me back to West Virginia, and, well, I forgot to tell you that my boyfriend person at the time, he came to me and he said, you know, you should probably ask your family if your name is in your grandpa's will and if he left anything to you, because if you don't, then you'll have to wait 10 years for a probate lawyer to come find you. And I just completely disregarded what he said. I was just like, you know what? The fact that they're telling you, a guy who I brought from West Virginia, that they act like they don't like, they act like they can't stand this guy, and they brought him in private and let him in on what was going on. So I already knew that he was part of a murder for hire campaign against me, and that he had suddenly switched up on wanting to work with my family, and he realized that he could just have the whole thing. He could just split it. He would have been able to just split it with me if he hadn't taken sides with them against me, potentially. Super weird stuff, dude. He fucked up. They all fucked up. Every single last one of them fucked up by going along with my family. Now I've been driven to his, you know what I mean? And like, I've been hurt so badly over the years that there's no way that I would ever risk getting into a relationship again for the rest of my life. I will not even sleep with anybody. It's that severe. The ways that people come up with to hurt you when they have that kind of access to you, it's horrible. All you have to do is give them a little access to your for just a second, and they will completely destroy it. It's horrible. You really can't. You got to really watch it. So he said, yada yada, this probate lawyer, 9 years or whatever, but that was also just to throw me off. So I went back to West Virginia, and I just thought to myself, I'll just wait 10 years. You know what I mean? I just thought to myself, you know what? Me and my kids, unfortunately, it's going to suck, but we'll just go and we'll live through the 10 years of these people trying to take us out. And then I won't have to share any of this money with any of these people who I know are hateful towards me and malice towards me, and that want to hurt me and that want to take my money and to hurt my kids, and you know what I mean? All these other horrific things. I thought, well, I'll just wait, because maybe in the future, I just felt it. Like I even felt God be like, just wait, because in the future, these people are going to be moved out of your way, and you're not going to have to share any of this with them. And you're going to get even more than what was owed to you to begin with. You're going to be even wealthier because of all the things that these people are going to do to you. And it sounded really horrific, but that was the instructions that I got from God. And that was the best advice that came out of me at the time. So like, even though it wouldn't just be a 10-year period. So I get sent back to West Virginia, and then I'm held in isolation, and my kids and I are basically tormented and tortured and live streamed and all different kinds of stuff. Not in the way that you would think. I haven't made it that far, but I'm going to. So they held us in isolation where they had us attacked for nearly 10 solid years. It got to year 9, and that's whenever I knew that things were going to get really, really bad, because if there really was a 10-year time limit, like my ex-boyfriend had told me, that people would probably be pretty upset, like, why isn't she gone yet? Didn't we pay all these people to get rid of her over and over again for the whole course of, you know what I mean, this last decade, and she's still alive? So now we have to go really, really hard in the paint to try to hurt her or disable her or eliminate her during that last year. So the 9th year was really, really bad. They set these women up to be slain. It was the most horrific thing I've ever experienced in my whole life. They set these women up to be tortured to death, and that was supposed to like mess me up really bad. I guess they'd done the same thing to grown men and other people, and that it debilitated all of them, that they ended up in mental institutions. I'm supposed to be the only one who was victimized in that way, where during which people hoped that I would just totally lose it, and but I survived it. But I did have amnesia for over a year because of it, and I had to take care of my kid out of a minivan as I was running from these people. And that was, I believe, my 9th year. It was my 9th and 10th year, because I would run with my little boy for over a year, well over a year, before they caught up to me and they got him. Because that was part of, that's part of the money to them, because each of my kids is due a certain amount of inheritance. What the bad guys have done is they've taken all of my kids and they've separated them out and made it to where they don't even have contact with each other, and that they don't really have contact with me either, and none of them can look out for each other or speak up for each other. And then if I were to pass away, the money would go to all of their caretakers. They've done all of this to bypass me this entire time, my whole life. They've bypassed me to make sure that I don't get any money and that I lived a life of total slavery and poverty, that I raised those kids alone by myself. And they've been trying to get rid of me so that money will go to their caretakers, so that their caretakers can live lavishly while they force my kids into lives of poverty and teach them to be evil and perpetrators. And or they will be raised up like me to be the pure sacrifice, which is horrible. So as I said before, I'd been dodging bullets longer than 15 years, but okay, and then but it's been about 14 or 15 years solid of the really brutal back-to-back attacks and attempts, and me having to survive, and literally even, dude, I think I may have resurrected once or twice through all this. If God hasn't decided that it's your time to come home, then it doesn't matter who wants to make that decision for him. No one really can. It's disgusting that so many people have tried to play God in this situation, but there are also people who understand that supernatural loophole, and they've used it to be even more torturesome and abusive. And I do imagine that the same thing is going to be what happens to the two witnesses in Revelations, whoever those guys end up being. And I think that they actually end up being men. But I hate to say that, because then people might deliberately for surely target men, and I don't want them to for surely target anyone. I mean, it's really bad. But so at the 10th or 11th year, I was running with my little boy, and I had amnesia really bad. I was terrified. I mean, I was terrified for a solid year after what those people did to the women, especially because my kid was asleep on the couch. And I knew that that was potentially what they had planned for both of us. And I had to go, like, get him up off the couch and run to the car to run away from the place and stuff. And they followed us out of there with four-wheelers and stuff. It was really horrible. There's a lot more to it than that. But so I ran with my kid for over a year. They finally caught up with me, and they'd paid a sheriff and a CPS worker to take him illegally. And they had to make all kinds of shit up and do all kinds of illegal shit and just fake a whole bunch of shit. And then they took him in the middle of the night, which is the same fucking thing they did last time. And they didn't even have to do it that time like that. They made sure that that I would be denied domestic violence services, which my kid and I were both entitled to as victims of domestic violence and worse. So they rendered me childless, and so then I was on the streets as a much easier target, and it was easier to pay the people who I came in contact with to attack me, because I didn't have a kid with me anymore. Just a single female is, of course, a lot more fun, I guess, for people to attack than a female with a kid. But people were still attacking me heavily with my kid. Heavily. I was being attacked just as much with my kid as I was by myself, honestly. I mean, but I think that they thought that, I don't know. Anyways. So I would go all these years through the human hunting game for a few more years or whatever without my kid. I expected to be rescued by the feds the entire time. I really expected the U.S. Marshals or somebody to show up and rescue my kid and I. And people even came up over my YouTube channel, acting like they were affiliated with the military or federal agents or gangs or whatever. People who acted like they knew what was up, but I knew that it could also be my family paying all these people to just say all this stuff, so that I would actually believe that help was on the way when it wasn't. And I do believe that the government was kind of behind that, telling telling a victim that they know that they know that she's being trafficked by the cops and the feds, and that they know that she needs help, and that help is on the way, but then help never comes. You know what I mean? 3, 4, 5 years go by, help never shows. Like, it was just been so shitty. So the whole time I was out here, I had, you know what I mean? Anyways, so I've gone about 15 years dodging bullets, living through people's murder attempts. And they're really serious murder attempts. If they're not going to murder me, the idea is that they need to disable me. All right, so on April 25th, after people put their heads together for a while, I guess, they got me into a car accident, and it was very deliberate. And the point was to either disable me or to try to get me hurt bad enough that I would die. I believe that that's called vehicular manslaughter, and there were at least 3 people at the time who knew what was going to happen and who had all gone in on it. But I did mention it to a couple police officers as I was running away from West Virginia, and they were like, why are you leaving and stuff like that. Like, isn't that weird that as I was leaving West Virginia, sets of officers stopped me to ask me why I was leaving? And I had to tell them it was because people just deliberately got me in a car accident, and I can't get my driver's license in West Virginia. I'm not getting any of the help that I need there. No one was doing it, and I knew that they weren't going to. I went back to West Virginia so that I could see my older kids, and they, I guess, aren't allowed to see me. And one of them is, I guess, even getting paid not to talk to me, which is fucking horrible. They have no idea the things that I went through to make sure that they would stay alive. They don't have any idea, but they, you know what I mean? It's really sad. Like, you apparently have to teach your kids biker style loyalty when they're very little. It's horrible. Like, basically anyone can just take them and mess with their minds. And it's really sad that government agents or military personnel would be the first ones to line up to do that. All right, so yeah, they got me into a car accident. And I can't remember if it's the witness victim that they murdered recently, Virginia Giuffre. I think that one of the things that they did to her as they were assassinating her was get her into a car wreck. I'm not sure if that's right or not. I have to go back and look and see they did all these different things to her back to back to back to back, until she finally succumbed to her injuries. It's absolutely horrible. They did the same thing to Princess Diana, just slamming her into a wall. And I even made that comment on my YouTube afterwards. I was like, whose fucking idea was this? You know, King Charles or whatever. And no sooner did I said that than I heard that he was just then leaving the United States. He came to visit our crappy White House because since they were able to assassinate Virginia Giuffre, President Trump and King Charles can be best friends now. Yeah. They set me up to get in a car accident, and then directly after the car accident, they made sure that no paramedics spoke to me whatsoever. They just had a cop come up and immediately have me start filling out a paper that said, who are you, where were you sitting in the car, and were you wearing your seatbelt? That was it. And The people who I was riding with who'd gone in on fucking setting. Okay, so when I first got to the house that I would stay at for for the for the winter, um, they, even though they've been poor, they're really poor and they live in, a trailer. And they've been pretty poor all these years. I mean, like, he works sometimes. She just pretends to work, basically, and yells at him to work and tells him that she works harder than him and she fucking doesn't do shit, basically. Fucking cleans cat shit or whatever. But anyways, they had a new car, and something that a lot of the perpetrators and the bad guys in this situation get as a payment for hurting me, or for planning to hurt me, or for trafficking me, for holding me hostage, or for making attempts against me, they get paid, even for filming me, they get paid in new cars. And the new car thing is apparently not just so those people will have new cars. It's because they're being asked to wreck me in their old car. Or to orchestrate some kind of wreck with some fucking car. But in this particular situation, they had a new car, which has been one of the, like, red flags as I go through the United States, that if somebody's in a new car, or they're like, hey, I just got this car, or okay, we got to keep this clean because I just got it, and stuff like that, that's supposed to be like a major red flag. If they say that if they're in a new car or they just got a new car, I'm supposed to, like, just bounce, apparently. But yeah, they had this new car, but they had this old car too. And that would be the car that they would set up to wreck, was the kind of older car. And it was a Trailblazer that was originally purchased for $5,000, is what I've heard. And anyway, I found a camera in the middle. There was a camera in a package that she probably didn't mean for me to see, but I tried to keep track of when it disappeared from the center of the car where it was laying. So I knew that whenever it showed, so I knew that they were already, like, filming me secretly throughout the house and stuff like that. I didn't know if there was cameras in the car or not, but there was, like, a little camera thing that I found laying there, and then all of a sudden it was gone. And I went out and looked specially, like, is it gone yet? So, because if it's gone, people may have specially set it up somewhere because they have some really weird, messed up plans. And also, I am a cannabis consumer, and I got a download that morning from God. He told me to make sure that I didn't take any weed to town with me. He was like, don't have any weed. You know what I mean? Don't take a joint to town with you or whatever. Don't have any weed with you because you're going to deal with law enforcement. These people are going to set you up this evening and you're going to deal with law enforcement, and you don't want to have any weed on you. And I was like, yes, Lord. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, that sounds horrific. Oh, God, I'm going to get set up and stuff like that. And so the only thing that she would have seen was me feeling like I shouldn't bring my weed and just leaving my weed at the house. So we end up going to work that day, which Saturday was a day that she never worked. And I thought that we had already done the work that we were supposed to do over the last 2 days, because I had been trying to make YouTube videos, and this bitch kept fucking interrupting me and giving me all this dumb shit to do and dragging shit out and making shit up. And then all of a sudden it was Saturday, which was a day that we really, that we generally never went over there. She'd already discussed to me several times that the lady who she worked for would ask her to come over and give her her Saturdays, would ask her to come over and work for her, and, you know, take her time with her and stuff on Saturdays, and she just didn't want to do that for her. So she dragged out pretending to work and just having me work for a couple days, and then all of a sudden it was Saturday when I needed to make my videos and was already backed up, like need to make my videos and stuff, and I know that they're deliberately blocking me from making my videos. I know that they're in on it. I know that they were poisoning my food. They were putting stuff in my food and drink. They would buy all this food for the house, and then they would basically not eat any of it. There were only certain things that they would eat, and then everything else, I believe they'd done something to. And I was getting poisoned at her house and at her mom's house because I would go over and watch her mom for her sometimes. And everybody would act like they needed me, and her mom would like act like she was so much more disabled than she really was, but she wasn't. They were just all putting on an act. But yeah, they ended up, so we went to work on the Saturday at the chick's house, and Chickie would bring her boyfriend with her. Well, it's not technically her boyfriend. So she had one boyfriend who I mentioned she tells to go work, and she treats like a child and tells him what to do all the time. It's fucking disgusting. It's virtually like, it's almost like a pedophile talking to a little kid. It's fucking disgusting. Like, ew. No, I'm not going to tell somebody to go to work. If that's a grown-ass man and he wants to provide and work, then he'll do it. I'm not going to fucking demand someone to do that, but I'm also not just going to let somebody just freeload or whatever. Honestly, if you have somebody taking care of you like that, you should maybe not be a fucking cunt to them. Be like, you should go work. Go work, go make us some money. And she cried about money. She was like, oh, we need money. Oh, money, money, money all the time to support her fucking pill habit. And that was fucking hella irritating. Sorry, so fucking aggravated over this fucking stupid bitch. So she brought her extra side piece boyfriend to work with us. He's one of the traffickers. He's trash. They're basically all traffickers now. They all engaged and played a part in literal human trafficking. They trafficked me. They allowed me to come to their house so that they could film me secretly and do horrible things to me, and eventually get me into this car accident. So we work over at the old lady's house or whatever, and then we decide that we're going to go eat. And I think that that's weird that we're going out to eat and that she's actually buying me food, because she's such a money-grubbing bitch, and she's just so weird about food, and she's not really like, I don't know, but I was like, why are they being weird and nice to me, buying me this, like, KFC bowl? And by the way, those KFC bowls are terrible. It's basically just potatoes. It's like the worst meal that you could ever eat. Just a bunch of sodium potatoes with like little chunks of fried stuff on it that hardly has any meat in it, and there's corn in there. So you're eating a big starch bowl with gravy in it. It's the worst fucking possible meal. Like, it's fucking so stupid. So anyways, I was eating one of those fucking KFC bowls in the parking lot of the hospital, right in front of the fucking doors, and we were only at the hospital because Jamie acted like he needed dropped off at the hospital. So he ate, we all ate. They scarfed theirs down as fast as they could, so that they could embark on their mission, which was going to get them lots of money and pills, I guess, and, you know, fame in the nasty bad guy world or whatever. And she began to pull out and to drive around the parking lot. Well, I thought that he was going to go in the front entrance, but the bitch didn't. She drove around the back. I thought she was going to let him off maybe in the back entrance, because there is, you know, a desk up there or whatever. She didn't let him up back there. She didn't let him off there either. She instead swung around. She swung around the corner, which is like where a helipad is. She swung out of the parking lot and into the main road beside the hospital. And she was driving really slow, and looked over, and there was a blue minivan heading right towards us, and both the driver and passenger, both of those hoes in the front seat who just scarfed their KFC down as fast as possible, they both looked over. They saw the van coming at us, which at that time it was still in front of us. Okay, they saw the van coming, and then they threw their heads back and started laughing and started looking at each other and laughing. And I don't even know what they were talking about, but it was all fake shit. And I literally had time to be like, oh, fuck, for a while like that before the car fucking hit us. Like, I could see the car, like, coming to us and knew the bitch was gonna fucking slam into us, and that these fucking hoes up front had just fucking set the shit up, dude. And just slammed. I thought to myself, the only way they did that this isn't a setup is if this fucking whore who just slammed into us, who just T-boned us, is if she has passengers. Because there's no way that they would have been able to do all that with passengers. They would have only been able to get the one bitch to agree. And so she hit us, and she hit the side of the car. The car moved. The car did all kinds of stuff. I don't know if it spun. Maybe it spun around. She slammed into us, and then we slammed into something else. It was quite violent. It was very violent. The entire bumper, the whole front end of the car was behind us, and I didn't even realize it until after I was done making a very simple short, just to show that there was some kind of devastation that had occurred, and that someone had made another fucking attempt on me, and that they'd made this time really blatantly obvious. And then another thing that made it obvious was, okay, so as soon as the cars stopped, I got out of the back seat and I walked to the van. And as she was getting out of the car, and her name is Stephanie, as Stephanie got out of the minivan, I didn't know her. I got the name from the bitch who wrecked us, because they were all buddies behind the fucking scenes. So I got out of the car. I said, "Are there any children in the van? Are there any passengers in the van?" And she said no. And at that time, I knew it was a setup. I walked around to the driver's side, where the driver was pretending to be in so much pain and all this, and a cop started pulling up, and Stephanie was like, "Please don't call the cops, please don't call the cops." And she was real slow and high, so I realized that she'd gotten really fucked up in order to do this, and someone told her that if the car wreck went a certain way, that no one would even call the police. That basically, if the driver was able to walk away or drive away, that no one would call the police or whatever. But a cop, lo and behold, was set up to drive by us within seconds after the little car wreck that they all orchestrated. And she was screaming out the window, "Please help me! This bitch just slammed into me!" Well, the cop couldn't tell that there had just been a wreck. He just saw one car one place and one car the other place, but he didn't realize, he didn't understand what was going on until they said that he didn't understand what was going on until he saw the bumper, the front end of our car, way the fuck behind us in the intersection. And she was like yelling out the window, screaming, "Oh my God, this bitch just wrecked into me. Oh God, I need help. Please, could you please help us?" and shit. And I could tell that she was putting it on. And I could tell that he was putting it on, because I just got in the same fucking wreck that you guys got into, but I'm not trying to milk it for all the attention that I can, like a fucking paid actress, which is exactly what these little fucking cunts did. "Please rescue me, Mr. Officer, from the orchestrated car wreck we just fucking... Oh, please help me." So anyways, I was like, oh, no wonder their whole fucking house is surrounded by all these fucking wrecked cars, because they pay to wreck their passengers. They get paid to wreck their passengers. Oh, and they just go through the being busted up, however, and they love it because it means that they get more pills. And then after all this shit, like, you know, they pull him out and put him on a stretcher, and they act like he's taking... Two different ambulance services showed up. Neither one of them spoke to me. They didn't even get near us. They put him on... Well, they got near us to put him on a stretcher. I don't even think he actually went into the hospital. I don't think either one of them were actually seen by the hospital for that. And if she was, then it was just her, and they'd already had it worked out that they were going to provide her with a script for what she'd done. And she even said, I got 10 hydrocodones. So that was one of the ways that they paid her to have that wreck. It's like, not only do you get money, you get a new car, you get but you get your fucking hydrocodones too. And then the bitch looked back to me and she said, I need you to hold on to my weed for me. Like, and we have no idea if we're allowed to leave the scene. There's cops there, but they're standing off at the distance, not doing anything. And there's ambulance there, but they're standing off at the distance, not doing anything, because the Elkins, I guess the paramedics in Elkins, West Virginia are fucking trash. They just get paid to pretend to show up to rescue people or whatever. So, what if I had been dying in the backseat of the car? They would have just fucking left me like that. It would have been a fucking straight up fucking Princess Diana move. She's like, I need you to take my weed for me and take it out of here. And she's like, I'll call somebody to come get you. She's like, nobody's going to talk to you. Nobody's going to ask any more questions and all this shit. And I was shaking really, really, really bad. I was hurt, but I know that the Elkins Hospital is a place that is evil, where I can't go. I'm already suing the Elkins Hospital and the Elkins Police Department. So I wasn't really interested in going to their shitty fuck hospital, their human trafficking, murdering hospital, or talking to any of their human trafficking, murdering cops who worked together to abort one of my babies, by the way, which I also made a video about. Yeah, so also what's my battery on? I don't even know. 9, okay. All right, so I went back to the house. They got me a ride back to the house while they went to the hospital, or pretend went to the hospital, because of course their injuries would be so much more important than mine. Yeah, I went back to the house, and I knew that I was just gonna have to get my shit ready and fucking leave. So the next morning I woke up, I was still shaking, I was still in shock from the accident, and as I shook like that, I got my stuff ready. Even in front of people, I didn't care. Nobody was gonna tell me that I couldn't leave. Nobody was gonna give me a fucking attitude. I was leaving, and I didn't really care to leave like all my stuff there. I left back all my bedding, all my stuff, and I mean, I kind of needed it at night, but I was like, I'm just gonna have to depend on God to provide me. You know, I walked out of there with too much stuff in my backpack, and I walked. They didn't do anything to actually give me a ride to any smart place. They just had me walk out of there. They were just like, yeah, fuck her. And they let me walk on fucking an injured leg. My leg is injured in fucking 3 or 4 different places. My back was hurt. My pelvis was hurt. But I'm making it, you know what I mean? And I hate to admit that, because by admitting something like that, I'm going to be attacked even more. And even more is going to be put on me. But, there are people who already know that I'm injured, and I'm basically just saying it here for, you know, just documentation purposes, even though if people succeed in eliminating me, my channel will just be shut down, and any evidence that I ever existed will be deleted from the internet. I didn't really realize how hurt I was until I was walking along the highway with my backpack, and my body stopped shaking. And that's when I realized I was carrying too much for somebody who was injured like that. And I stopped for a second. I felt like I couldn't go on anymore. And I called somebody from the next town to pick me up. And they had to find me on the highway in the dark. And they took me back to Buchanan, where I stayed the night at this fucking dumb bitch Karen's. And it was Karen's job for the night to be a fucking cunt and to make stupid sounds and just to be a dumb bitch all fucking night long. And she was a dumb fucking whore like that until about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning when her fucking meth whore ass fucking finally decided to go the fuck to bed. And luckily she actually went the fuck to sleep. Because I was able to get up and spend my morning alone and get my stuff ready at my own time in my own pace. Of course, I hurried to get the fuck out of there before she woke up, but she snoozed long enough. I was able to get out of there, get my stuff ready, and I immediately blocked that whore. Because she's part of it too. And that is a chick named Karen Cobb in Buchanan. But she was just she was just newly pulled into it. Or no, she wasn't just newly pulled into it. She was pulled into it way back when. But as far as her personal attacks against me with them go, that's something recent. And the others involved, I will go ahead, since I said Karen Cobb, and she wasn't even the person I was talking about this whole time. I'll go ahead and say Jenny Fortney. Is the driver of the car, and her little boyfriend Jamie was the passenger. And the woman driving the minivan is a Stephanie Teeter of Elkins, West Virginia. And she's probably in jail right now, even though she went in on a murder plot that she obviously didn't have very much say-so about. She ends up being the one who gets hurt too over this. Unfortunately, she joined some gang or cult or was an informant of somehow, and they were able to get her to do something like this. But they set her up to do that with no driver's license and with no insurance, of course, so that the driver of my car could be like, oh, she didn't have insurance and she didn't have a license. Somebody was irresponsible and just wrecked into me. And this was all just a freak accident. It was just because this bitch was irresponsible. And that's a fucking goddamn lie. Forgive me, God. I'm sorry to even use that phrase. It does freak me out too sometimes, but it really upsets me that these people were so fucking disgusting and malicious and had such fucking disgusting intentions. Anyways, I'm gonna be fine as long as I'm not fucking bleeding internally, or, you know what I mean? Like, I'll be fine. I've managed to walk out of West Virginia. There were days, since April 26th that I walked between 10 and 20 miles a day until I got to where I am now, which, so, I don't know if I made matters worse as far as injuries go, but, that cop asked me if I wanted medical attention, and I told him no, because I knew that it was a fucking setup. There's no telling what they would have done to me if I would have gone into that hospital. And so I guess legally I am not required to seek medical attention, and I am allowed to legally refuse medical attention. So, I'm just following the guidance of the Holy Spirit. That's all that I can do. If the Lord says do not walk into one of these hospitals, I have to follow those instructions, or really terrible things will happen to me. You know what I mean? If the Lord God says go, then I have to go. If he says stay, then I should stay. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't be alive right now if it weren't for the direction of the Holy Spirit and my willingness to obey. These people have tried to take me out over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. You wouldn't believe how many attempts that they've made to either disable me or to take me out. And secretly, they disabled me several times, and I had to nurse myself back to health and pretend that I wasn't as disabled as I really was. So I've had to really, like, recover from some things over the last... The hardest of it has been over the last 15 years, but as I said, they have been doing these things to me since I was a child. This is why I've tried so hard to rescue my kids and to make sure that my kids get rescued from this situation, and to speak out for my kids. Because if things don't change, they're going to live through a lifetime of shit like this themselves, or they're going to be turned into the same people who put other people through this. Either way is really bad. All right, so that is a little bit of me documenting one of the last murder attempts that were made on my life. Unfortunately, I was robbed afterwards, and it was actually set up that a DoorDasher would rob me, and one of the people who lived in the house that I stayed in over the wintertime, the chicks, anyways, that person was a DoorDasher. And so it seemed like as I was leaving, I got robbed twice as I was leaving West Virginia. And I knew that they were the ones who set me up to get robbed like that. The same people who I left. They had me followed in one form or another, and potentially to my phone, like tracking my phone or tracking me, however. But they ended up sending 2 different people to me who would rob me of things that they specifically gave me, which is something that is a pattern that the human traffickers have done all across the United States and during my whole life, basically. I'll have to get more specific about that too, because I've mentioned it a few times, but I really need to be getting more specific about it, because I know that these things are happening to other people and that they really need this help. And I don't really know how to put it in the most helpful form for you. The tarot readers and the prophetic speakers are doing a great job. In my case, I am just desperate to get the word out about my situation and that I exist. My YouTube channel is controlled by the bad guys, and I'm not getting enough subscribers fast enough, and that's very deliberate. I've actually gotten more subscribers than it shows, but every time that I begin to get subscribers, they have the old subscribers or fake accounts or duplicate accounts unsubscribe, which makes it appear analytically as though my channel never grows, and it makes it appear number-wise as though my channel has never grown. I've had actually well over 100 subscribers already, and they keep, as I said, every time it begins to grow, someone drops it back down. And strangely enough, even though one of the people who I speak out against is Elon Musk, and everybody wants to pretend that I'm full of shit, he ends up being the name on most of the fake accounts that are following me to throw off my analytics so that people won't find out what I'm saying about him or anyone else. So if there's any way that you could actually like anything, any of my videos, more than one video would be cool. You don't even have to watch the whole thing. Could you just maybe hit like or tell someone that I exist? Could you please tell someone that I exist? Because I need for people to actually know that I exist and to know that I'm here. And until the public says something about it, no one is going to do anything about my situation. I really do need help from the public. I've been out here for years. I've been going through this my whole life. Nothing has changed. People are sent to hurt me. People are sent to rob me. I get set up all the time. People poison my food. People poison my weed. People do all kinds of horrible things. And they've been doing this to me my entire life as I've been dedicated as a sacrifice. So if there's any way that you could help by letting someone know that I exist, you can contact news reporters. You can contact anybody. You can tell anybody that I exist. It's not a secret. Please don't hide me. I could really use help from the public, for real. And part of the public could also use my help, you know? And I wish that I'm in a really scary situation, and I have spent a lot of this time scared, and I wish that I hadn't been so scared so early on. But as I said, I've just been trying to follow the guidance of the Holy Spirit as to when to make videos, what videos to make, how to make them, all that. And I'm just trying my best. And, you know, I know that I survive. I know that I make it. But just the simple fact, just the sheer fact that if I weren't able to make it, like, that people just delete, like, they shadow banned all my other accounts, or not all my other accounts, but some of my other YouTube channels and stuff like that. I mean, every time that they would be able to, you know, push me off the map, steal my phones, hold me hostage somewhere, they would shadow ban all my channels, and I would not be able to find myself. People would just be waiting for me to pass away so that they could delete all my accounts. So, please take this seriously, and please let someone know that I exist, and you can pray for me if you want. Real Christians can pray real Christian prayers to God and to Jesus for me, if they feel so compelled. Any real, true compassion is appreciated. And, yeah, so that's the last attempt that was made on my life. And, they're usually pretty regular. And from now on, I'm going to be explaining every single murder attempt that anyone makes against me, or every single disabling attempt that I know of them making against me. Of course, sometimes I don't know, because sometimes they might put something in my food or drink or whatever, or weed. And I try not to, of course, consume anything that anybody else would have access to, but that is kind of also fucking impossible sometimes. Or not impossible, but it gets complicated. So yeah, it's rough. I realize that you see this smile on my face, and I'm not covered in bruises. I don't look like people have been trying to kill me for the last 20 or 30 years, 15 years, whatever. But I still need you to take this seriously, okay? I really try to not look like a crackhead so that people might be more inclined to want to help me, because I actually have to ask for help, unfortunately, as someone who has been driven into complete and utter poverty, who doesn't even have a fucking driver's license. I'm not even allowed to work. And I really don't want to have to go, I can't go live out of the woods anymore because I keep catching fucking Lyme disease. So I would have to go live out of the desert or out of the sea or whatever, to live off of the sea or to whatever. I can't live off of the land that has no grass whatsoever, because I can't just continually keep catching this crap from ticks. All right, cool. I'm trying to end it under an hour, but all right. Thank you for listening. If anyone actually made it this far, you have an incredible attention span. Thank you so much.